we are heading into the first three-day weekend of 2026 by recognizing the civil rights icon himself, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Did you know he had some pretty big moments right here in St. Louis? We will learn a lot together, my friends, coming up on Great Day. Hey, in all seriousness, you want to talk about success stories? How about we talk about the most iconic and impactful civil rights leader in our nation's history? Martin Luther King Jr. Now, on Monday, of course, we dedicate an entire day to that man's legacy. So this morning, we're taking just a moment to revisit some of MLK's big moments here in St. Louis. And here to share more is celebrity historian Raffi Andonian, dressed to the nines as always, who has, listen, this guy's actually taught civil rights movement history as a professor at Harris Stowe here in St. Louis. We got the right guy for this job. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you. And I actually started early in my career. I used to give tours at the Martin Luther King birth home in Atlanta.
No
so
kidding.
MLK is real close to me for a long time.
So you know this story very, very well. What I wasn't really aware of is that there were some pivotal moments and some important benchmarks in St. Louis. How much time did Martin Luther King spend in St. Louis?
He visited St. Louis several times. I'll walk you through a few of the highlights. In 1957, shortly after the Montgomery bus boycotts that are famous because of the Rosa Parks moment, shortly after that ended, he came up to St. Louis and he spoke at Kiel Auditorium, which is today where Enterprise Center is. Right. And that used to be actually where the St. Louis Hawks would play basketball, NBA basketball, before they moved to Atlanta. Now, he comes back in 1960 at the United Hebrew Temple, sponsored by the Jewish Community Center, which we still have today. And what you're seeing on your screen there is his visit a few years later to St. Louis University. You see, he came here both shortly before and shortly after his famous I Have a Dream speech, you know, in Washington, D.C. in 1963. Right. Came to the Washington Tabernacle Church in 63. And in 64, he came back to St. Louis University, and that's what you're seeing images of there in their West Pine gym, which is today the Center for Global Citizenship on the St. Louis University campus. You can go still check it out today and go inside and you see the image of that gym and you will still see what it looks like.
What was his message when he would visit the Gateway City, and how was it received here?
So one of the guys from SLU that was in the audience, one of the thousands of people, said, I felt like I could that speech. Now, what's interesting about that is, you know, his message changed over time. So, for example, in 1957, when he was here at Kiel, he said that he actually complimented St. Louis in the way that it had, as he put it, integrated the schools in a quiet and dignified manner. Those was his words, quiet and dignified manner. But he said, you still have to remember that we have to deal with racial injustice in the border states and up north as well, not just in the deep south. But when he went to the United Hebrew Temple, which was the Jewish Community Center that was sponsoring this, that's when he gave a really huge message. That's actually what you're seeing an image of right there, right now. You see inside, you can see that it looks like a temple. There's a Star of David there up top. Yep. Today, that's the Missouri Historical Society archives. That's me with some of my Harris Stowe students there, taking a field trip there. That's what you're catching there. And when he was there was 2,000 people in there, and his message was the future of integration. And in that message, he said that we must match the capacity to inflict suffering with the capacity to endure suffering. That was a really powerful message. And what he saw in the future was he saw in that moment in 1960 that he said that we're in the threshold of the most creative moment of reworking racial interactions in the United States. And one of the people that left that particular speech from the Jewish temple said that I felt that when I left, I wanted to do better.
That's a legacy in and of
really
itself.
well received.
Multiply that by tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people.
Now, speaking of legacy, what I brought here is the Congressional Gold Medal that he received, MLK, and his wife, Coretta Scott King. This is a bronze duplicate that you can still get at the U.S. Mint's website if you go to usmint.gov. And since this weekend is MLK weekend, go to our local history museum. Right. They have events on Saturday, including a scavenger hunt that the kids can do. They have a panel and a workshop on Monday on the MLK Day itself. And if you go to the Art Museum on Sunday, there's a St. Louis Poet Laureate that is sharing her work that was inspired by photography of MLK during the civil rights period.
Countless ways to learn more this weekend, and we hope everyone takes the opportunity to do that. Raffi, always tremendous.
Of course,
we
thank
appreciate it. You got it. You can find this segment on firstalertford.com/greatday once we wrap up the show, guys. Really interesting.
Yeah, it was super interesting. It really was. I was glued. All right, thank you, fellas.